In 2007, one company controlled nearly half the global phone market. Not Apple, not Samsung. This one. At its peak that year, Nokia's share of the market touched close to 49%, according to IDC's estimates for that quarter. More than Apple, Samsung, and Motorola combined. The company pulled in over $70 billion a year, employed more than 130,000 people across 120 countries, and its phones were so common that Nokia was practically shorthand for mobile phone. 6 years later, that empire, once valued at over $250 billion, sold its phone division for $7.2 billion. Not billion in profit, billion total for the whole thing. How does a company that big just disappear? This isn't your typical company failed story. Nokia's collapse is stranger than that because Nokia didn't fail from a lack of vision. It started with rubber boots and paper mills. In 19th century Finland became the undisputed king of mobile phones, and then, with the resources and the talent to see the future coming, walked straight past it. What actually happened inside that company? Then they got disrupted. To get how far Nokia fell, you have to see how far it climbed first. Start in 1865. Fredrik Idestam opens a groundwood pulp mill on a riverbank in Tampere, Finland. Just a paper business. Over the following decades, it merges with a rubber works and a cable company, and in 1967, the three combine into what becomes Nokia Corp, an industrial conglomerate, making everything from tires to boots to electrical cable, decades before anyone's thinking about cell phones. The real turn comes in the 1980s. Nokia's electronics arm, a small-side operation at the time, starts experimenting with mobile technology, and the company becomes one of the first to bet seriously on cellular. In 1982, they released the Mobira Talkman, a briefcase-sized portable phone that looks nothing like what we'd call a phone today. Then comes the decision that mattered most. When the industry argued over analog versus digital, Nokia went all in on digital GSM. That bet paid off enormously. By the late 90s and early 2000s, Nokia wasn't just winning. It was the industry. The 3210, the 3310, the 1100. These weren't just phones. They were cultural fixtures. Cheap enough for almost anyone, tough enough to survive almost anything. Nokia was first to a lot of things. Built-in antennas, swappable covers, the whole idea of SMS is something people actually used constantly. Their Symbian software, clunky as it looks now, was genuinely ahead of its time. They built network infrastructure and flooded the retail market simultaneously. At its peak, Nokia wasn't just a phone company. It was the mobile revolution's backbone. So what happened? Here's the part that doesn't get talked about enough. Nokia's collapse wasn't one bad decision. It was a slow rot inside a company that looked unstoppable from the outside. By the mid-2000s, Nokia had become a massive, siloed bureaucracy. Different divisions didn't talk to each other. Engineers who saw touchscreen phones coming. And there were real, working prototypes inside Nokia, years before the iPhone, kept getting overruled by management convinced that physical buttons and long battery life were what customers actually wanted. They looked at the iPhone in 2007 and saw an expensive toy for early adopters, not a redefinition of what a phone even was. Then, in February 2011, CEO Stephen Elop sent an internal memo that leaked almost immediately. He compared Nokia to a man standing on a burning oil platform, forced to jump into freezing water just to survive. It was brutally honest about how bad things had gotten. But the plan that followed the memo was the real disaster. Instead of building their own modern software or adopting Android, Nokia bet the company on partnering with Microsoft's still unproven Windows Phone. That was the jump into the sea. Except it meant abandoning years of Symbian work and hitching their future to a platform that had almost number apps and almost number momentum. What's hard to get past is how much Nokia actually had going for it. The engineering talent, the brand, the manufacturing scale. And yet they dismissed the App Store model outright, assuming carriers would always control software distribution. They stuck with Symbian long after it was clearly falling behind, while Android, free, open, and rapidly improving, pulled developers away in droves. Nokia had the foresight. They had working prototypes. What they didn't have was a decision-making culture. that could act on any of it fast enough. And so the company that built the mobile world handed its future to competitors who understood something. Nokia refused to. The smartphone wasn't a better phone. It was a different category of device entirely. Microsoft bought Nokia's phone business in 2014, a deal that turned into its own disaster within a couple of years. The Nokia name lives on today, licensed to HMD Global, which makes Android phones under the brand. The original Nokia Corp still exists too, just not as a household name anymore. It's a network infrastructure company now, working behind the scenes on the towers, and hardware that carry modern connectivity rather than the phones themselves. The lesson here isn't really about phones. It's that being dominant doesn't protect you from becoming irrelevant. If anything, it can make you slower to notice. You're already behind. A healthy company needs people who can say, "This could kill us," and be heard, not overruled by whoever built the last successful product. Nokia didn't lose because their phones got worse. They lost because they never accepted that the entire category was about to change. Underneath them, worth asking, which burning platforms are we standing on right now without realizing it?